there, history friends. How you guys doing today? Here's our first video for our unit on the Islamic empires of the modern world history era, and understand the Islamic empires for us to study what is Islam. Islam is a religion, and just kind of to remind everybody here that we're going to talk about different religions here in our class. We're not trying to say any one religion is right, wrong, or anything in between. Just a little bit about the history of them and kind of what they mean. If that makes sense to you guys, okay? So let's start with Islam and kind of talk about where it comes from. So we're looking at this part of the world here, the Middle East. So we looked at in class a little bit already. And our story begins in the city of Mecca. So Mecca is right here. It's on the west coast of Saudi Arabia, modern Saudi Arabia today. It's a big city at this point. It's a trading city. It's a city with a ton of people living there from a number of different religions and backgrounds. There's Christians living there. There's Jewish people living there. There are other religions that are present there. They have this big, huge box, essentially, in the middle of the city. In the middle of the city, they keep this big, huge box full of all these religious idols, all that kind of stuff. Well, there's this dude named Muhammad living there, and his job is taking camel trains across the desert. So he'll start here in Mecca and travel different places with these huge, long caravans of camels. And he sees wars and violence, all that kind of stuff happening over religion through all different parts of the Middle East. Gets kind of fed up with stuff. And he goes to Mount Hira, which is outside of Mecca, and goes into this cave here, okay? And kind of chills out in that cave for a little bit. Now, while he's in that cave, he hears a voice. The voice identifies himself as the angel Gabriel. And so he starts saying all these different things. And Muhammad, according to the story, starts repeating all these things back and forth. And then states things like there's one guy who created everything. That one guy, his name is Allah, receives all these visions, right? And he heads back to Mecca and starts telling people what he saw. And starts teaching people the things that he heard in this cave. At least, once again, how the story goes, all right? And so the first person he teaches is his wife. Her name is Khadijah. And then he talks to the poor people and the slaves of Mecca and becomes a kind of a big movement throughout that lower class of Mecca. And then eventually the rich people start believing and listening to it as well. Some people don't like it because they think he's trying to change people. He's trying to encourage people to revolt or whatever it might be. And this was a plot to actually kill him. Some people kind of give him a heads up. Hey, these people are going to try and kill you. And him and his family run away from Mecca to a place called Medina. Okay. And it's called the Hijra, is what this is called in the long run. And it's one of the holy kind of things of Islam, kind of this whole history of the religion. Well, while Muhammad is in Medina, he starts teaching more people about this religion, kind of sharing more of the beliefs that he's come up with. People start coming together, start following him. They actually create an army, and they march south to Mecca. I'll kind of here march south from here down to Mecca, and they take the city over and invade the city of people who are considered not followers of Islam, right? They remove all the other idols from the Kaaba, this big box right here, and Mecca kind of becomes the center of Islam. Well, that's kind of the very brief story of this whole thing, right? Now let's get into what this kind of belief actually is. So Islam is a religion. It's not a culture, not a people. It's a religion, okay? And if you look at the Arabic language, which is used in Islam, it literally means peace or kind of peace with God or all those kind of ideas. And a Muslim is one who follows Islam, right? Also is one who submits to God. Essentially, Muhammad, the guy who started this whole thing, is the prophet of God. And they believe other prophets existed too. They believe in Abraham and Moses and Jesus and all that kind of stuff too. But the version of the religion that they follow is Muhammad. He's kind of the prophet that Muslims try to follow. Now, some followers write the Quran, which is basically the words that Muhammad was teaching from the visions that he saw. And so this book is kind of the holy book of Islam, the Muslim Bible, if you will, right, is the exact word of God. And then also another book is written by his followers called the Hadith, which is actually the actual Muhammad, kind of what he does, what he believes, what kind of things the idea of what you should be doing as a good Muslim. So all these other things are getting written, stuff getting started to spread around. We start building these holy buildings called mosques. I'll show you some mosques in class probably. They use Arabic as language, and we see this symbol up here of the crescent moon and star. You may have seen it on flags and other places as well, because the Muslims use this calendar based on lunar cycles. Well, most of the teachings talk about 5 big teachings, called the 5 pillars of Islam, based off all these visions and revelations that Muhammad received. The idea of faith, prayer, fasting, alms, and the Hajj. We're going to tell you about them real quick. We're going to talk about more when we get into class, okay? So first one here is faith. So here's faith. The idea that there is one God, and they use the phrase Allah for God. Allah is the Arabic word for God. Same God, right? As in Christianity and Judaism, people talk about. It's just that they're going to follow Muhammad's message of God instead of saying Moses or Jesus or Abraham. And so they choose, like, if you look at the Quran, and I've talked to imams who have been teachers of Islam, and they've like, yeah, so, you know, the stories of Jesus and Moses are in the Quran, right? But we follow the words of Muhammad versus them instead. That's kind of what the big difference is. Now, the cool thing, an interesting thing, depending on how you look at it, in the Islamic faith is that if you go into a mosque, you will not see any pictures or paintings of God or Jesus or saints, that kind of stuff. Instead, we'll have these words here instead. This is the Arabic word for Allah, and this is what they'll have there instead to kind of decorate the mosque instead. The idea of not having images is to not distract from your prayers and your faith and your focus on what you're trying to do. Then you have prayer. So Muslims who are devout Muslims will pray 5 times a day, at sunrise, at noon, in the afternoon, at sunset, and again in the evening. And they line up, kind of like you see here, in lines, horizontal lines, and they face Mecca during their prayers. And there's usually a call to prayer to mosque. I'll play one for you when we're in class. They have to do a special washing before their prayer, wash your hands, wash your feet, and they face to the east or face towards Mecca. There's different motions where they bow and say certain things for their prayers. We've had a few Muslim students here at school, and they can actually kind of like save up their prayer times and do them later and choose to do them when they are available to do them instead of at certain times. Other schools have a lot of Muslim students who actually have a break in the day, so they can actually like do their prayers at normal times. If you go to Middle Eastern cities, a lot of times the entire city will shut down during prayer time, and everybody will go pray because that's what you do. You also have the idea of fasting. So during Ramadan, which is a different date on our calendar every year, on the 9th month of the Muslim calendar, is the lunar calendar. This past year, I believe, was in April, and it's different every single year. Devout Muslims will choose to fast during the day. It means they do not eat or drink from sunup to sundown, give up all worldly pleasures, and after sundown, have a big feast. The idea here is you're kind of focusing more on religion and not on worldly pleasures like food or alcohol or drugs or cigarettes or whatever it might be. You're focusing on just religion, and you're focused that way. I got some fun stories to tell you about that later on, too. You also have the idea of alms. Alms is giving to the poor. So a Muslim, according to the Quran, is supposed to give a little bit of their income every year to the poor. For rich persons, people have 2.5% of their income. Poor, if you can't afford to do that, you kind of give good deeds, help each other out, all those kind of things. The biggest thing is that you have to do this of your free will, not because you have to. So essentially, you have to do it because you choose to, not just because you have to do it, if that makes sense. Our last thing we'll talk about here is the Hajj. And we'll watch a cool video on this in class too. The Hajj is a pilgrimage that Muslims take once in their lifetime to Mecca. And so Mecca today is this huge, giant city, and they have airports and hotels and all that kind of stuff there. And because once a year, Muslims from all the world will flock to Mecca to perform the ceremonies of the Hajj. It's supposed to happen at least once in a Muslim's lifetime if you can afford it. And you also center around the Kaaba, this big black stone here in the middle of the big mosque. And it was very, very secretive. Originally, you can only participate in this if you are Muslim. Still today, you can only participate in this if you're Muslim. They weren't allowed to take pictures or paintings or anything of that. In fact, there was a British newspaper guy who at one point actually snuck into Mecca during the Hajj. He actually like painted his face and used makeup and stuff to look like a Middle Eastern person. And he snuck in to know what was actually happening there. Today, there's been a couple TV crews of Muslims that have shown what happens at the Hajj, and we'll watch this in class and kind of see what it's all about. But it's a huge thing for Muslims to make this trip once in their lifetime. So, biggest thing I want you to focus on today are things like the 5 pillars, know who Muhammad is, know kind of what makes that Islamic religion. We're going to talk more about this in class. I thank you for your time, and look to talk with you guys very, very soon. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day.